The challenge is this: is that inflation is a compounding problem. So while we talk about inflation being 3% now, what Americans are really feeling is that about 20% over the last 3 years, right? So you have 9% and 3% and 3% and 4%. It's so and it really wouldn't matter really genuinely if wages were increasing at or above inflation, but they're not. And so
Mm.
Americans are really, really, really pinched, and it's likely going to get worse. I mean, inflation still is rising. It's not slowing. The Federal Reserve, everyone remembers, has a 2% target. We're just above 3% now. So we have some time to go to get that inflation down. And while the Federal Reserve raised interest rates precipitously, now 5%, to stamp down inflation, there was a bit of a blip in the last several months, inflation rising and above predictions, and certainly moving away from the 2% target, which I think will precipitate the Federal Reserve maintaining interest rates at or near 5%, where we are today, throughout the end of this year.
Well, the Dow, it closed past 40,000 for the first time, ever. Yesterday, casting a very positive light on the U.S. economy. The president taking credit on Thursday, if we can put this up, he was writing, quote, "This is great news for Americans' retirement accounts and another sign of confidence in America's economy." Do you see this as a good sign for the U.S. economy, that we're on the right track?
So here's what I say about the public markets and those who invest in it. They're amazing, and I'm so happy. So obviously we're all happy to see the markets rally in significant ways, and it certainly does mean a lot for people's retirement accounts. But I often say that I think the economy and the market, I think, once dated but never got married. For whatever reason, we're seeing an increase in unemployment and an uptick increase in unemployment and an uptick in government assistance for unemployment. And so the economy month over month actually is the GDP numbers have almost cut in half. So we're starting to see a slowdown. And in your lead in, you were really good at suggesting, but I mean, just put a finer point on it, that because of the high inflation rates, Americans have burned through their savings and are now forced to use credit cards at a alarming and significant rate, historic rate actually. So now collectively, we're about a $1.3 trillion in collective credit card debt at very high interest rates, usually about 20%. And another alarming issue is that now almost 20% of those people using credit cards have reached the max of their credit cards, and so they've now gone beyond. They've reached their limit of what they can spend.
Right.
But inflation is still rising, and so that's a
That's my
recipe for a
question, Chris.
significant disaster.
What can the government do, if anything, to help with those interest rates? Because yeah, I mean, you saw it right there. What was it, 1.2 trillion?
Yeah, it's nearly 1. Yeah, it's creeping up to 1.3. So it's like, look, the government can lower interest rates. That would obviously the Federal Reserve could lower interest rates. The government could spend money again, but both of them have significant challenges. Of course, many people think that we're in an inflationary environment we are today because the government 3 years ago spent $2 trillion after the pandemic, which was significantly inflationary. And if the government, so when the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates, and they start chasing inflation with interest rates, we saw that movie before in the 1970s with Paul Volcker, and it led to stagflation. That is the worst outcome you can get in an economy. It's very sticky and extremely challenging for most American families. And so, look, we're going to be in for a tough time. We're all hoping for and rooting for a soft landing, and I think Secretary Yellen and Chairman Powell are doing their level best to get this down and to get us under control. But there's just a lot of things that are outside of their control,
Right.
And so this is going to sound a little crass, but the economy really is significantly overdue for a correction. No one wants a correction, a significant and difficult correction, but we're at a place where the American economy, where we've grown a long time, and we're
Yeah.
the world's best economy. But there's
It's a sobering reality, what you're saying. I appreciate you providing a little bit more context to these numbers. Chris Campbell, thanks for coming up.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of News Nation's fact-driven coverage.